Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we'll be discussing how Meta just made VR so much more accessible and how all the other pieces in the industry are coming together to help push XR technology directly into the mainstream. So we'll be discussing all of the hurdles that VR has historically faced and how each and every single one is getting resolved, leading to an extremely bright future for this technology. Now, there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but let's just start off with the main issue that plagued VR in the beginning, and that was the cost of entry. Originally, if you were interested in getting into VR, you would not only have to pick up a headset that was at least $500, but you also required a PC that was $1,000 or more. Obviously, this was a huge ask, making the technology only available to enthusiasts. Now, things did get slightly better with the release of the PlayStation VR 1, because by comparison, it was a steal. It was a much cheaper entry point into VR for anyone who already had a PlayStation 4, which was an extremely common device at the time. But fast forward, and what really changed the game was the Meta Quest. Now, the original Quest was a great first start, but not quite the product that really pushed the industry. But by the time we got to the Quest 2, with Meta selling it at a loss, a $300 price tag for hardware that's even better than the first generation, well, that was extremely impressive. So it was easy to understand how they were able to sell over 20 million units of the Meta Quest. Now, moving forward to the Quest 3, it feels like things are actually moving in the wrong direction. We're back to a starting price tag of $500 and up, and it really hasn't been that long since most people purchased their Quest 2. So I'm really happy to see it looks like Meta has a two-pronged approach to resolve this issue. The first one is we know that the Meta Quest 3S is coming out, and it is most likely going to be a cheaper version of the Quest 3. Just a more accessible way into the Quest 3 ecosystem, which we need people to gravitate into so they can get access to the latest and greatest software. But we'll get back to that later on. Now, the other thing that Meta just announced is a new payment plan, what they're calling Play First and Pay Later. This is actually a great deal. Historically, these monthly fees to get access to a hardware have some type of interest rate attached, and you really end up exploiting people who can't shell out the full price when they want the unit. But here, you can get the Meta Quest 3 for $25 a month with a 2-year contract, plus you're also getting their Quest subscription service for 2 years. So you get access to plenty of games, you'll get the hardware, and at the end of those 2 years, you actually ended up spending a little bit less than you would if you got the subscription service and the headset. So it's a great deal and makes VR so much more accessible. And this makes sense to me because I constantly hear when people are like, well, I can't believe people don't want to shell, $500, $400 for a new Quest when they buy a $1,000 iPhone every single year. So who cares that you got to do it for the Quest every 4? And that's reasonable, but there's two things wrong with that. One, the cell phone has become a device that we need. Yes, we use them, we enjoy them, we love the extra features, but it's also a device we need. GPS, phone calls, text messages, pretty much everything. Our calendar. It's a device that the average person needs. It's no longer a want. The Quest is still in the want category. Now, additionally, people don't shell out $1,000 straight for their new iPhone. They're almost always on some type of payment plan. So it's great to see the Quest following suit with that, making it just much easier for people to gain access into this. Now, eventually, Meta does want to make XR technology like your phone, making your new computing device something that you want to have with you at all times. Obviously, the form factor and all that has to change, but that's stuff down the road. That's stuff we're eventually getting to. That's the end product of all the things that are going on in this video. So let's just move into the next category. Now, after the price tag, the next huge factor for most users is comfort. Now, when we discuss comfort, we're not just talking about how the headset feels on your face. Obviously, it has to be comfortable enough to wear for an extended period of time, but additionally, it also can't be giving people motion sickness. Now, in terms of comfort, we've made some amazing strides. The original headsets that came out in 2017 were bulky, not comfortable at all. I remember my Vive Pro, if I could keep it on 45 minutes long, I was happy. The thing was hot. It had foam all around it, it sucked up your sweat. It was just terrible. And headsets have just got better and better. And we have some cases where they show off just how amazingly comfortable they could be, like the Big Screen Beyond. That's a tiny 127 gram headset that honestly you would be able to wear all day long like a pair of glasses. So the technology is definitely getting more comfortable on your face. You see it in every generation of the Quest. While the Quest out of the box is not the most comfortable headset, when you lower the price, that makes getting third-party comfort options just so much more acceptable. We shouldn't need to, but there's always some concessions you have to make, especially when you're considering the price tag. Now, in terms of motion sickness, I understand some new VR players and even some veteran players still get motion sick. However, it is night and day compared to what it used to be. Developers have learned so many tricks to just make the overall experience that much more comfortable. And as the technology gets better too, we get better frame rates. All this combined gives a much better experience. So obviously, VR is getting so much more comfortable. And when we get to the point where we could do something like a Quest device in the form factor of a big screen beyond, which is maybe, 5 to 10 years away, we have these devices that we could wear out in public all day long and just be happy with it. We really want to get the Quest is on one end, and then Meta's other technology like the Meta Ray-Bans is on the other far end, and we want to eventually just bring them together and have a product that can do both. A form factor that's as close as possible to the Ray-Ban Metas with the functionality of the Quest. So with the issue of comfort being slowly resolved, the next major factor is software. Now, Meta has been working diligently for years to develop more compelling software. Originally, back in the PCVR days, they were funding third-party studios, mostly flat game studios, to develop bigger, more robust PCVR games. The thought was, you finally give us more compelling software and people will buy in. That was also the thought with Half-Life Alyx, which was only slightly successful, unfortunately. It's still too much of an ask that we go all the way back to the price tag. That's why it just wasn't compelling enough for people. Having one AAA title is not enough to spend $1,500. Their next move in that process was actually acquiring multiple successful VR development studios. And now we're finally starting to see them release some high quality games. Zoro gave us the absolute blockbuster title Asgard's Wrath 2, Camouflage is dropping a Batman game, and we know other studios like Twisted Pixel Games and Ready at Dawn are currently working on new projects. So the blockbuster first party stuff is definitely in development, and at the same time, the third party VR studios have hit their groove. They've been at it for years, they don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore, they know what works, they know what a successful budget is, and for the most part, their games keep getting better and better. To name a few, we have Resolution Games and Dreams, Skydance. They're giving us amazing titles. Behemoth is going to be an absolutely fantastic experience, and I can't wait to see the official D&D title from Resolution Games. And there's another 10 plus amazing looking games dropping in the next 6 months. I've detailed them all in a recent video, so if you want to see them, I'll post a link, but I'm not going to get into them right now. But if XR technology is going to expand beyond just games and become what Meta wants it to be, your next computing device, something that could work in tandem or even replace your cell phone, well then it's going to need a lot more use cases. And once again, this is where they're excelling. There's just so much you can do on the Quest 3 that's extremely impressive. I know mixed reality is in its infancy, it's still kind of gimmicky, but it's showing a ton of promise. And just having the ability to walk around, see the world, and then pop up some screens for whatever use case. You're watching a tutorial as you're building something, or I actually even played the D&D board game using my digital character screen floating in the air, and we were hooked up to the tabletop software so I could click roll dice or whatever the case may be, and everyone saw what was going on their Roll20 or D&D Beyond, whatever we're using at the time. So it's really exciting, has a lot of potential use cases. It also functions extremely well as your own personal media center. So not only can you stream stuff like Netflix or Prime Video, but you could also use it for Xbox game streaming service or connect it to your PC for productivity. There's an absolutely insane value in the Meta Quest headset, and I think more and more people are going to take notice of that, especially if they can get into the ecosystem for cheaper, which we've already covered in today's first topic. And one of the final aspects that shows that the future of XR technologies is bright is the fact that we finally have some competition. Now, I know Meta is pretty much ruling when it comes to this stuff, but Apple has jumped into the game, and they wouldn't have done that if they didn't run the numbers and think there's some potential future here. Not just some, like a very likely and very profitable future. We know their original headset, the Apple Vision Pro, is not selling well. It's definitely not making them a ton of money, but this was just their entry into this new technology field, and they started from the top. I always talk about how Meta's going bottom up and Apple's going top down. Apple wants to show you how amazing this technology can be, just blow you away out of the gates, and Meta wants to make it accessible to everyone. And eventually, that gap will close. We know that the next Apple Vision, drop the Pro, is aiming to be like half the price tag, and that's when a lot more people will pick it up. If you have something around $1,500, which is like the price of an iPhone, boom, it becomes much more likely that people will pick it up. And I guess, Apple could also jump on this payment plan that Meta is doing. So competition definitely helps here. Every single industry needs competition. And while Pico didn't perform as strongly as I would have hoped, they do still have a ton of money. They're owned by ByteDance. And I know they're not giving up. I know they have more stuff coming out, more technology. So they're still in the game, but they have pulled back a little bit. I think they decided, listen, we don't want to spend this much to go completely up against Meta. Let Meta pave the way for us a little bit. And then all we need to do is, invest later on, copy some of their technology, and we'll be good to go. So that's their direction. So we finally have competition. And the last topic, which is basically the cherry on top, is besides competition, we're also finally getting more options. So Meta is giving out their OS to third parties. Third parties will be able to make their own headset. This is good because the third party, which usually are just hardware manufacturers, no longer have to even think about software. They just install Meta's OS. Obviously there's going to be a few technical recommendations or requirements, the hardware that has to be inside the headset, but they could push things a little bit further, do OLED displays for people who, refuse to get an LCD. They could do higher resolution panels, better sound. So the people who want not just the basic Quest 3 can go above and beyond, but still be in the same ecosystem, still play all the same games, still be happy, not get a headset that they spend triple the price on with a quarter of the functionality. So this is great for the industry. It's a little cherry on top. I'm really curious to see what it leads to. Do we get some really nice, better performing headsets? Maybe we have an overclocked XR2 chip in there or some other scenario, much better screen, whatever the case may be. I would love better audio in a Quest. The screen I'm okay with. I don't think we need to push it that far because the hardware can't handle much more just yet. But who knows? Maybe someone will surprise us. Put a completely different Snapdragon chip in there. It's possible. So the future is bright. I'm really excited for VR technology. I think all the issues and hurdles that it faced are getting slowly resolved. And honestly, I think Meta is right. 5 to 10 years, this is going to be pretty much mainstream technology. But I want to know what you guys think. Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic here. I don't think this is toxic positivity. I'm always against that. When people go, VR is the best, it blows every other game out of the water. No, you're full of it. And I think you're going to, just hurt the overall position of VR rather than help it. Because if you sit there and say something so amazing, someone tries it, then they're like, no, it's a gimmick. That's what I don't want to see happen to VR. But I think everything I said here is 100% true because it came out of my mouth. So obviously it's true. I'm just being an idiot now and rambling. But honestly, I'm really happy for where VR is. It's been just putting me in a really good mental state. I'm just so happy to see the technology growing, more people getting involved. But enough rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time.